Bridgerton Season 4 is here after almost 2 years, and this season is all about Benedict searching for his lady in silver. Like the previous season, it's been split into 2 parts, and with part 1 being left on a massive cliffhanger that has opened up multiple stories, such as the Penwoods moving in next door to the Bridgertons, Francesca not finding her pinnacle with John Stirling but potentially with Michaela, and also Benedict showing that maybe he hasn't actually changed that much. These first 4 episodes really did provide the tea, and as Mrs. Wilson said, everybody drinks tea, and boy was this tasty. So with that, let's dive into the first 4 episodes, discuss the important details, and I'll share if it was any good. Here is Bridgerton Season 4 Part 1 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Benedict and Sophie back. With Sophie being Benedict's lady in silver and him not having any idea whatsoever, we saw that this season was mainly focused around a love blossoming between 2 people who felt like they didn't truly belong and felt like an imposter in their own life. This was the case for Sophie because, as we saw, she was a maid that was actually from a noble background, but following her father dying and marrying Lady Penwood, she ultimately made her a maid because her mother was one. Lady Penwood never treated Sophie like her own child and confined her to the shadows because that's where she felt like she belonged. And then with Benedict, as we saw with him, he was somebody that had no interest in love or finding marriage, just like Eloise. But instead, he preferred to be a free man that could do as he pleased. However, with Sophie attending the masquerade ball as the lady in silver, she instantly caught his eye. Over the course of the season, we saw that love was what he actually wanted, and he began to grow closer to Sophie. His search for the lady in silver was yielding no results, and even after looking through all of the miniatures of the ladies that attended the ball, meeting some of them in public and analysing their lips because that's all he could see of Sophie's, he didn't find the person that he was looking for. The stigma of somebody that's considered to be from high society being with a servant is frowned upon and can tarnish the future prospects of the servant. So Sophie was reluctant to be with Benedict because she didn't want it to impact her future. Even after he said that he wanted to be with her, she valued the job that she got at the Bridgerton house because it was the best that she'd ever had. And after seeing what she went through at the Penwoods house, it's clear to see why. In the final episode, Benedict had been continuing to paint the lady in silver from memory, but the face was the one final part of it that he left blank because he just couldn't remember. However, as he was drawing Sophie, he flocked to Bridgerton house because it made us think that he'd finally realised that he knew that she was the lady in silver. However, instead, he simply asked Sophie to just be his mistress. This was after they began to be intimate with one another, and as Sophie should have done, she declined his offer. It was an insult for him to ask that of her because of the connection that they actually had. This almost showed that even though throughout the entirety of the season it felt like Benedict had changed, it confirmed that he hadn't, and he was still the same old Benedict that wasn't necessarily thinking with his heart. Sophie was considering accepting the job offer and wanted to stay on working at the Bridgerton house, but with Benedict doing that, and also with the Penwoods moving in next door, I imagine that's going to throw a massive spanner in the works as all of the secrets that have been kept under wrap are going to start to spill over. Francesca and John Stirling. Francesca and the discussion about her not reaching her pinnacle with John Stirling was a part of the story that was amusing to watch. In fact, the first episode of this season connected to the final episode quite well because I think an affair that might take place could potentially begin in the next 4 episodes. Lord John mentioned to Francesca about how they moved into the house with Michaela and that it wasn't ideal, but he noticed how Francesca was trying to keep her distance from her. Whilst it wasn't said, it very much feels like Francesca was keeping her distance from Michaela because she's attracted to her and she didn't want to act on those feelings. I think Francesca and Michaela are actually going to end up together. The whole story of Francesca not being satisfied with John Stirling is a subtle way of showing us that Francesca isn't actually happy and that she'd rather be with somebody else. So with Michaela then arriving at the end of the 4th episode as a surprise and her saying to Francesca that it looked like she'd just seen a ghost, those true feelings might start to come out now. Violet and Marcus. Violet's storyline is one that I feel some people might find relatable. She's in a position where she's had children, she's lost her husband, and with time now having passed by, she wants to go and drink some tea. Obviously, by tea, I mean that she just wants to feel love and affection from somebody, and this person so happens to be Marcus. The guilt that she was carrying because she still missed Edmund every day was what was holding her back. However, with Mrs. Wilson saying to her that life was there to be lived, implying that she shouldn't just live in the past out of guilt, it made her change her mind. It also got across the message of feeling comfortable in your own skin and within your own body. She was fearful that because she'd had several children, she wouldn't feel good looking enough, but as we saw, the confidence that she had was oozing off of her, and the look that she had in the mirror spoke 1,000 words. With Violet now starting this in secret with Marcus, I wonder if Lady Whistledown will damn her mother-in-law and make her the gossip of Mayfair. Eloise. Now, this Bridgerton is basically doing all that she can to push her entire family away without even realizing. She's actively opting to be a spinster because she doesn't care for being with anybody, but in the process, the part of life, courting and celebrating love, which everybody else enjoys, is what she's making fun of and turning her nose up at. I think this is something that's going to impact Eloise moving forward. The words that her sister spoke to her cut deep, and I think it's going to make her question if she's going to continue acting like that as much, because she might find herself quite literally being ostracized. I think Eloise will find love eventually, and I'd quite like to see the person that actually ends up with her. Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury. Lady Danbury wanted to leave the Queen because she wanted to return home. However, as we saw with Queen Charlotte, she forbade her from leaving. She ultimately treated her like a prisoner rather than her friend. As the episodes went on, it was insinuating that the show could be giving us the death of King George. Charlotte didn't want Lady Danbury to leave because she feared that she'd be all alone when George died and she wouldn't know how to handle it. Obviously, we saw the prequel, so we know just how much she loves him. With Lady Danbury staying, we saw her looking to find a lady-in-waiting for the Queen, and she put forward Alice Monridge, somebody that would treat the Queen with respect but also treat her like a human being and call her out when she did things differently. This was a position that Alice didn't actually want, but with her most likely taking it, I think we'll see her grow to be close with the Queen, and through that friendship, I think it'll allow Lady Danbury to finally go back home and enjoy life outside of London. My review of Season 4 Part 1. I thought this was actually a really good 4 episodes. Episodes 1 and 2 were my favourite. Episode 3 was a little slow, with it basically all taking place at my cottage, and the 4th picked up towards the end of it. Now, I loved the reveal at the end of episode 1, where it showed us that Sophie was a maid. The fascination that she had with the chandelier, the fear when she saw Lady Penwood, and the appreciation for the small things all made sense when we saw her returning back. I like the idea of Benedict falling in love with a maid, even though technically she shouldn't be. She's arguably one of the nicest characters that we've ever had in the show, and I hope she does get a happy ending. I really like the small moments, such as when he held her hand, which connected back to episode 1 when he took off her glove, and I also thought the shot where Benedict walked up the stairs and she walked down the hallway in the house was just heartbreaking. I buy into their love, I just want her to tell him that she was the lady in silver. She's basically got nothing to lose now. Even though this story was focused on Benedict and Sophie, I felt like there was an appropriate amount of time with the other characters. For example, Francesca and John Stirling's story felt fleshed out, the War of the Maids felt like it had good drama, and Violet's story got a focus too. Honestly, how evil and cruel are the Penwoods, Lady Penwood and Miss Rosamond specifically. They were so cold to Sophie, and I feel like they're going to get their comeuppance. I feel she's also most definitely lying about Sophie being kept out of her father's will too. I'm hoping that they end up in a position where they either lose their status or Lady Penwood ends up behind bars. Her being dressed in black definitely matches her personality. So far, I am enjoying the season, and I think it did leave us on a good cliffhanger. Thankfully, we've got less than a month to wait, so until then, all we can do is theorise on what's going to happen. So, there you have it, Bridgerton Season 4 Part 1 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Bridgerton, then check the videos below. I'm going to be covering Part 2, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of Season 4 Part 1? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.